Welcome to a harsh reality broadcast on the 13th of June 2013. Today I would like to focus on how the average person views the world and how their perception can be distorted by manipulation. People who follow my channel know that I tell it as it is. I pull no punches, yet at the same time I remain respectful to other people's point of view. My objective today is to try and explain why I believe that many of us can be conditioned and manipulated. I appreciate that there may be people who watch this video that will have a contrary opinion to my own. However, I certainly don't advocate that my outlook on life is correct. It's just how I view the world. I like to think that I'm balanced and logical and yet understanding to those that do not share my outlook on life. First of all, I truly believe that the human mind can be easily conditioned and that some people are more susceptible than others to conditioning. From my viewpoint, the clever strategic elite take advantage of this. As I said before, I do not wish to offend people, but at the same time I do not wish to appear to agree with people when I do not share their outlook. I enjoy a discussion and welcome contra views to my own. I will reflect on their comments, and occasionally my outlook can be modified. But it is only very occasionally. I have reached an age where I have had enough time to reflect on life. As I have mentioned before, the elite take advantage of our impressionable minds, and through that process condition us. It is no coincidence that different countries have differing outlooks. A culture takes time to develop, and if it has been isolated, it is virtually impossible to change their illogical belief systems. This is not going to be an easy presentation, because people can get very upset when you challenge their belief systems. People who follow my channel may have come to the conclusion that I do not trust organized religions. In my opinion, they try to manipulate the population and instill illogical beliefs. I really do not wish to offend, but that is my viewpoint. I went to boarding school and I was 11 years old when I realized that organized religion was based on an illogical belief. I have always been a reflector and never followed the crowd. It did not worry me if I was seen to be different. Very few people questioned their belief system and simply followed in blind faith. Let's be honest, that is the way the elite like it. I watched a program on television about 15 years ago. There were religious leaders from different faiths discussing religion. Something stuck in my mind from watching that program, and it was this. There was a Catholic priest who said that all other faiths were false and the only true faith was the Catholic one. I reflected on his comments and came to the conclusion that the person in question was arrogant and delusional. I have no doubt that some people will post comments on this channel expressing that they have been upset by my comments. They are free to do so, providing they remain respectful and do not get nasty and personal. It never ceases to amaze me that some people that profess to be religious can be the most arrogant and obnoxious of people. They will even use comments like, "You will burn in hell as a non-believer." I am often told that if I don't believe in God, how can you have any morals? In my opinion, belonging to an organized religious faith is like being in a gang. Eventually differing gangs will have conflicts as they vie for power. In the past it was easy for governments and religious leaders to manipulate us, because, in a nutshell, we did not know any better. When we were younger, most of us believed in Father Christmas. It was a fairy tale for children, and I believe God is a fairy tale for adults. I find it amazing that in this day and age, when we can compare and contrast different belief systems, so many people believe in the man-made God. Okay, I had to make a reference to religion as it leads me to my next point. The ruling elite rely on our ignorance. It is not in their interest for us to be critical thinkers and educated. They want us to be dumbed down and are quite happy for us to watch so-called reality programs. They are quite happy for us to believe that political elite are stupid. The truth is, there is a lot of planning behind the scenes. I play chess, and I truly believe that the elite are strategic planners. Their goal in life is to protect themselves. They are the king and queen on the chessboard, to be protected at all times. You and I are like the pawns, to be sacrificed at will. Of course there are people that are close to the political elite and can be considered as the bishop, knight or rux. However, if things become desperate, those pieces will be sacrificed. It is all about protecting those at the top. That's it, that's the reality. When you look at history, you will note that life was really harsh. People had a very tough life. Following the Industrial Revolution, life became more comfortable as machinery and cheap energy became accessible. There was not the unsustainable debt keeping the economy afloat. Following the Second World War, the baby boomer generation arrived. In my opinion, they were the luckiest generation ever. The new technology and cheap energy powered the boom years. Governments provided safety nets for its citizens by promising pensions and, in the UK, free health care. The problem is, nothing is free, everything has its price. To ensure that these promises were kept, unsustainable debt was incurred. People became more reliant on the state. Over the last 50 years or so, there have been several generations that have been relying on entitlements. A new norm had developed and the harsh reality of life was forgotten. A stable lifestyle had grown in the boom years and people expected this to last forever. Many of us became spoiled, rude and disrespectful following the erosion of the old traditional values. The Ponzi scheme was kept going following the detachment of the dollar to the gold standard in 1971. A growth fueled by debt became the norm and people did not question how such a good standard of living was achieved. I will tell you straight, it was only achieved by borrowing from the future. Western governments are doing everything in their power to keep the illusion of growth going. But unfortunately, it is not real growth, it is growth built on unsustainable debt. It's kept going by quantitative easing and raising the debt ceiling. This cannot go on forever. I watched a YouTube channel a couple of days ago, and it claimed that if you have a positive attitude, it will aid an economic recovery. I do not subscribe to that view. It's a bit like saying, if I pray, my problems will go away. The truth is, we have to face reality and understand that a major economic collapse is on the way. There are two choices. We either face the depression now and stop living in this fantasy, or continue with quantitative easing and face a much worse collapse down the road. I suspect the elite will try to defer the collapse. The cracks are appearing now. Have you noticed that our freedoms are slowly being eroded in the name of protecting us? Have you noticed that there is price inflation without the wage inflation to match it? Have you noticed the volatility in the stock markets? Have you noticed we are now being fed positive and negative news about the economy? The elite won't want this collapse to be linear, they would prefer a zigzag pattern. This throws us off guard. I suspect that there will be a so-called unexpected event that will trigger the collapse. Plans may already be made to send us to war with some of the Middle Eastern countries. As I have said before, history is littered with pain and destruction. Why should the future be any different? We need to prepare for the paradigm shift. Don't let normalcy bias cloud your judgment.